Welcome to episode 32 of Whole Lot of Wolves. We're your hosts. I'm Joshua Buckley.
I'm Paul LePage.
And we welcome back Mike Shad from Virginia Wolves this week. How's it going, Mike?
Good. How y'all doing?
Pretty good. So Mike first joined us on episode 16. If you want to go back and hear his story about how he became a Wolves fan, move on back to that episode. But we'll go ahead and jump into today's game, which was played in the middle of a hurricane from what it looked like. But yeah, final score 1-1. I felt like Wolves played a lot better than that in the first half. Paul, I'll let you start out. How were you feeling after the game today?
I was gutted just because I hate them with every fibre in my body, and I want to win at all costs, and it's going to pain me for however long they're back down. They're still going to go on about only taking a point off the Albion out of the possible 6 this season, but trying to take the old gold tinted specs off and be somewhat thoughtful about the game. I'm just disappointed that we didn't kick on, especially after that first half. Perfect time to score. I wish we'd have just come out all guns blazing in that second half and tried to kill them off, because it did seem that sucked our momentum somewhat and shifted that over to them, and it was similar like way traffic for that first 10 minutes of the second period. And I really felt that was the time where if we'd have got a second, it'd have been really comfortable. And adding into the fact those monsoon-like conditions, I think if we'd have got a second, we could have closed up shop and gone about it quite comfortably. But when you factor all of that in, whilst I'm disappointed we didn't beat them, look at the circumstances around it whereby they had to win. They're down anyway, but the whole narrative about them having to win, they needed to win. I think we're a better team over the course of the 90 minutes. I think both goalies had an equal workout, but I think we put them under pressure slightly more. And yeah, try and take the positives, the green shoots that we saw, take that from the game and build on that.
Mike, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I think it was the torrential rains did not help my mood of viewing them. I thought I was impressed with the first half. We had 11 shots on goal, which is very unlike Wolves, and I was hoping they were going to come out in that second half and just go for it. I was really happy to see the change in the player selections, Adasawi and some of the other younger guys getting a chance on the pitch. I felt really bad. I thought it was like the worst environment possible for. I just remember Adasawi again, like he came in like whatever the 71st minute, or maybe it was even later than that in that one match, and he gave up the goal. Maybe it was at West Ham. I forget who they played.
Yeah, Man City away. Yeah.
And that was just. I feel like he finds himself in these precarious situations where it's not the best time for him to shine. But I thought he actually, if we're going to talk about players, maybe we'll talk about specific players later. But overall, I was happy, especially coming off the last match where we just got, destroyed and we looked lifeless against Burnley. And
we're not talking about that match.
Yeah, don't want to even.
Again.
So yeah, we looked like we had more life, like we were more proactive, but. Again, we're playing a team second to the bottom with 17 points. So, yeah, to keep things in perspective as well. So, yeah, I'm happy that we didn't lose and they didn't do the double over. That was probably my big takeaway from this match.
I felt like there were a lot of good performances today. And so that makes choosing man of the match pretty interesting. You could look at, obviously, Fabio scored. I thought Batana played great. I thought Ait-Nouri was pretty strong. Semedo was good. Neves was good on the defensive end. The only ones that you could really say, not in the running for man of the match were Saiz and Odasowi. Who was your selection, Paul?
You bring up a good point in that there's plenty to choose from, which is nice, especially away from home in such a big match. Worlds removed atmosphere-wise, obviously, from what some of those kids would have been up against if it had been a full house, sold out, baying crowd and all of that. But I think every one of the youngsters deserves a special mention. But I'm going for Fabio, just because he got the goal, but he worked tremendously hard. He's got a little swagger again, and it's nice to see. And he chases down lost causes. You saw another couple of elements to his game. There was one through ball in the second half, and he was toe to toe with the defender, and he just eased him off. And I thought to myself, give him a year, maybe 18 months. He's got that upper body strength, maybe an extra half yard of pace, just to put the shoulder in and burst through on that. I think there's a lot of potential there. He had a great shot in the second half as well. So he's got that, and in his locker that he can drop a little deeper, look up from 25, 20 yards out, take a good shot and make the keeper work. So if he adds that to his bag of tricks, as well as being a fox in the box and causing trouble there, it just bodes well for the future with Fabio. So he's my guy tonight. I thought he did well, and it's a positive. I just start him out till the end of the season now.
Yeah,
getting some games under his belt. He's got some good opponents to pit himself against when we've got those Everton, Tottenham, Manchester United coming up at the end of the season. Just go out there, let him enjoy it, and let him have some fun now that the pressure's off and he's not carrying the team in Raul's absence or anything like that. So go Fabio.
Yeah, I would agree with you as well, Fabio. Did you see how happy he was after he scored that goal? He was so his smile was huge, and that just made me happy for him. To see that joy on the pitch, and to see, even though it was a almost an accidental goal, it was still he's taking full credit for it, and he is stoked that he's even playing.
All the good strikers they have the one that goes in accidentally or off their backsides, but they claim it just as much as the one that's beautifully crafted. So he's in the right space, right place at the right time, and
his movement is amazing, like in the box, much more so than Jose. I think we've seen that time and time again, just him getting in spaces and places that Jose is not getting in for whatever reason.
So I actually think, the goal going in was definitely a lucky bounce because it hit off his left foot. But honestly, if that ball's not deflected either, I think when he hit it initially with his right foot, that was going in. It was a really good strike. And then he had the other one right outside the box that he fired up, which was another great shot. Yeah. Like you said, a lot of confidence in what it's good to see, because that dude plays so hard all the time. Yeah. And now he's just look at the improvement he's made since his first start after Raul got hurt. He's making a big difference. And I think it all starts with, hey, I'm just going to hustle. I'm going to outrun some people, and then the chances are going to be there.
It's interesting as well whether there's any possibility of a partnership forming with Raul. Now, I've seen it these past few weeks, especially when he's had a break out of the team and he's come back in. I still think that shows some opportunity as well, because they are different players in style and what they offer and the types of role that they can take up top. So I think that bodes well for the future as well.
Yeah, I think I just always remember Steve Bull told me he needs to shave his head in order to get better headers, and I wonder. I'm hoping this over the summer maybe he'll do that and come back like clean shaven and able to hit some amazing headers.
Maybe he'll just go ahead and put the headgear on like Raul's going to wear next year.
Oh, that would make the partnership beautiful, I think.
One guy who I thought played really well was Vitana today. I think today was the first game where I could say, yeah, I can see him being the replacement for Moutinho. Even though he wasn't playing Moutinho's spot, he was playing more of a central role, but he was really doing a lot of little things today that I was really impressed about.
Yeah, he was very positive. He very much overshadowed Devin Donker, who I thought was almost I didn't really see much of during the match, which I was disconcerting. But yeah, he overshadowed a lot of other players in the midfield. Even you could probably maybe even argue for his movement being superior to Neves in some ways, just like on the positive offensive end. I know Neves has been deployed more oftentimes his defensive role. But still, yeah, it was quite remarkable the spaces he was getting, the runs he was making, and the passes and the people he was hooking up with it was impressive.
I'd probably say he was the best midfielder on out of the two sides for sure. And
Yeah.
it again, more positives going forwards. He was tricky to knock off the ball, which as a smaller guy, that's a huge positive, that he could take the ball and protect it. He was also very mobile as well, that he was always looking to do something. There was always some momentum. He didn't really stop, even if it was looking sideways. He was keeping the ball and he was trying to find space that way as well. So again, I think a ton of positives from what he brought to the side tonight. And same goes. Let's see how he can close out the remainder of the season. There's probably still a question mark over his 90-minute fitness. Again, we've not seen him for the duration. I don't think so. That's probably something that he needs to build up over time. And I could imagine that second half in that weather. Not sure what the direction of the wind was going, but that's got to take a toll on those legs on that pitch with all the standing water and everything.
Yeah.
So that was probably the reason for him coming off at 80.
Yeah, I thought, and Gibbs White coming on for him. I thought he did really well. Again, just being more positive and moving down the field. So I was surprised for that sub, and also happy that he played pretty well coming on.
Did you agree with the way Odasoe was used today? Because it seemed like at first he looked a little bit more midfield, and then he kept pushing up, and it almost looked like he was playing a winger role. It seemed a little odd again with him.
It seems like they're having a tough time finding a spot for him necessarily, because I think he is more offensive than I think they initially. Because I remember there being a conversation when they first signed him that they wanted him to be a fullback, but he very much was against that idea and argued, and I think rightly so, has moved his way into the midfield. But I really liked him. I liked his movement. I thought he was one of the more aggressive players. I always rank Saiz as probably usually the most aggressive Wolves player we have, and then I was happy to see that Odasoe was being aggressive in a positive way, like fighting for position. I remember with that one header, they had a free kick, Albion, and he was pushing back and forth with one of the players, and the ref did have to come to speak to him. But seeing that passion and that willingness to go after the ball, and I don't think we've seen much in the midfield of that. And he's just a big presence too. He's a big dude. He can move. He's fast. Seems like he's getting up the field really quickly. He might be gunning for Debendonker's spot, I would say.
I think it was a weird hybrid of a formation to start with as well, which made it look weird. And it wasn't his natural position in it. It was some variation that I thought to begin with of a 4-3-3 where he was more advanced, but the wider of those central midfielders. So that seemed a bit odd. And it did take him a while to get to the speed of the game. Good 10-15 minutes. Prior to that, there was some misplaced passes and he didn't seem up to speed. But yeah, from that point onwards, the plus points that he highlighted in terms of strength and power and again ability to move with the ball, we haven't got many players with that skill set. So if that can be honed, I really see that there could be a very nice player within there as a powerful centre midfield, either as one of the two more defensive ones if we're playing 4, or there could be a role for him in a 4-3-2. So I'm interested to see more from him for sure.
Yeah, his passing was off early. I do think some of that was actually the weather. I think he wasn't necessarily – he was very tentative, I felt, because he wasn't sure on what the speed of the pitch was going to be with the passing because of the rain. So I felt like that was the passing struggles, but he did work his way into it. Yeah, I still felt it was a little odd position to put him in, but we're out of wingers because it seems like Podence is still struggling out there right now. There's no way he's 100%. That's just all there is to it.
Yeah, he looked terrible from what we've seen before, definitely. It's like he's off the mark 100%.
He's in crying need, I think, of a full pre-season of doing nothing, relaxing on the beach, coming back 100% fit and building on it from that point. Or probably I doubt his form's going to put him in contention for a spot in the Portugal squad in the Euros. So I think he probably is. And that's two pretty severe injuries, really, that he's had this year that's took a significant time out. And you're always going to be playing catch up when you've had that amount of time away from the squad and away from the game. So yeah, let him finish the season off the bench and rest up and come back and be the player that I think we know that he is. But let's see a fresh 100% Podence.
Yeah.
Okay, question, Paul.
Okay.
Do you want Albion's relegation to the championship to only last a season, so that way they're back up in the Premier League in 2022?
I think so. It seems crazy to say, but being from over there, I really feel for the fans that missed the games this year, because that atmosphere is second to none, and it really would have come across this era of Premier League when we've done so well over these 3 years. I really think that's knocked our momentum when it's come to playing them both times as well. I think a baying crowd at Molineux would have spurred us on, and equally, I think we'd have been at home with our backs against the wall at the Hawthorns tonight with their crowd onto us. So I'm not that type of fan who wants them to go down and be buried and never see the light of day again. I don't mind if they come back and we play them. It's competition, and it's the best type of competition. It's horrible for me. I felt sick all weekend. I was dreading it, but the feeling that you get if you do win, it's been certainly few and far between over even my decades of watching them. They've really got their hex over us at the moment. So let's just bring them back and do our best to beat them again. Yeah.
Now, would you have enjoyed sitting in that monsoon today? And because that looked miserable. And a follow-up there, what is, for both of you guys, what is the worst weather you've sat through at a live sporting event?
That's a good question.
Paul, I'll let you go.
Mine's ingrained, and it was watching the Wolves on a Boxing Day, and it was 95 or 96. And it was away at Oldham, which is northwest in England. So freezing cold. Sat on the front row, so no protection. Froze the nether regions off. Think it soaked through. I was with my brother. I was only 14 or 15. Absolutely froze. Lost 4-1 to a hat-trick from one of their players called Andy Ritchie, who was this horrible little Scotsman who always seemed to score against us. And one of the goals was right in front of the Wolves fans, and he goaded us. And I've got that imprinted on me. I'm never going to forget that horrible experience.
I would say my worst experience would be, we had tickets one year to go see the Yankees in the World Series. I think it was the 5th. It was probably like in the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
And so we go. This is the old stadium too. This was at Shea Stadium. Anyway, we parked, I don't know, seemed like 5 miles away, and we walked in the rain. And as we come up into the stadium, and we're like, oh, there's no one really here. And my dad was never like a big sports guy, so like we go into the stadium, and it turns out that the game was canceled. And so
brutal.
And so then we had to walk all the way back in the rain. And I was like, so he got his tickets to work, and I was like, so we get tickets to the next game. He's like, no, you don't get those tickets back from the World Series. It's like that. So I never got to see it was like the only time I ever really got to see. And yeah, that was my one shot at seeing like a World Series game. And I was rained out, and it was, yeah, I was like 13 or 14, and it was just really sad.
Mine was baseball as well. It was 2004 opening day at Wrigley Field for the Cubs. Some college buddies had driven up there, and it wouldn't have been bad with the 35-degree weather if it wasn't for the 45-mile-an-hour wind blowing into the stadium. We were at the very top, and there was chain link behind us, so it was like a giant wind tunnel. And I have never been so cold in my life. Like, we were holding hot chocolate, and we moved and we're like standing in the aisleways underneath, like barely even watching the game, trying to find stuff. And we left at the 7th inning because they were getting slaughtered. I was like, this is miserable. So I did think of that when I was watching that game today. Yeah, no, this would be like awesome to see these two teams play, but
Yeah.
I think one of the worst feelings in the world is wet socks, and I can't imagine. I can't imagine.
Yeah.
Like almost want to cut your feet off after a game like that.
Oh man. Yeah, it looked miserable. It looked like when at halftime, after halftime, when Mike Dean came on, it just looked like he would want to be anywhere else except the refereeing. I was like, geez.
I wonder if anyone's translated Neves' undershirt, because one of the camera panned on his. It looked like he'd got a celebration ready for something if he scored, and the T-shirt had cut, the jersey had come off. I wonder if anyone took a look at that and could tell us what it was. That's how wet his jersey was.
Yeah.
We preview our annual 1-1 draw at home versus Brighton and Hove Albion. To take a look at the opposition, we're joined by Paul Dorsey. He's in Los Angeles, formerly of Baltimore, and the Baltimore group is the Stateside Seagulls. Is that right?
Yep, that's right. So that's the national one, and then we have different groups across the country.
Okay, awesome. So Brighton's avoided a real scrap at the bottom this season, Paul. Quite comfortable with a few games remaining, but what were the expectations at the start of the season for you guys?
Yeah, I think that with a lot of teams, especially teams in the lower end of the table, we were tempering our expectations this year because of COVID and not having fans in the stadium. We were really reliant on our home form the past few seasons being in the Premier League, and without fans in the stadium, that really does have a pretty big impact. As we've seen this year, we've only picked up a couple of wins at home. So I think that if we would have had fans in the stadium, that would have really helped us out. But before the season, I think we were all hoping that we would be maybe comfortably mid-table, further away from the relegation battle. And obviously that didn't necessarily happen this year. We were pretty close in that race at the bottom this year. But I think that now that we've distanced ourselves with 4 games to go, I think that's pretty comfortable for us to push on, maybe pick up some more points, finish 14th or maybe even higher, and really have that comfortable mid-table result that we thought we were going to have, even though we had a little bit of a scare there toward the end of the season.
So from the outside in, Brighton seemed to get a lot of plaudits for playing style and the way they're set up. Hard to beat, especially with those draws this season. But what's holding you back, do you think, away from the current circumstances around this current season and the pandemic and everything? What's holding you back from taking that next step as a team?
Yeah, I think that you touched on it, but it's pretty simple, but just putting the ball on target and then putting it in the net. We've really had a lot of really good play up the field. The first 2/3 of the pitch were really solid. We don't concede a lot of goals. We keep the ball well, but just whatever it is that forces the ball into the net on the other side of the pitch, it's just not going in for us too consistently this season. And I think that we have the attacking options that would be successful in the Premier League. I do feel confident in Opay, Leandro Trossard, but the ball's just not going in for him in the Premier League. And Trossard's been scoring goals for Belgium, so we know he can score. We've had some really bad luck with missing penalties or just balls hitting posts and crossbars or just not going in the net for whatever reason. So I think that if we just see the ball go in the net, so if Neal Maupay gets a couple goals in a game or two and just has that confidence built up, then we're doing everything else and just not putting the ball in the net. And if we can get that confidence up and put the ball in the net consistently, then next season we could be shooting for top 10 even, hopefully.
So speaking about next season, are you worried that any of these big clubs are going to be going after you guys' prized assets?
Yeah, definitely. So we're expecting Yves Bissouma to leave in the offseason. It's one of those things where we're just enjoying the last of seeing him in a Seagulls shirt because he's probably going to be gone this summer. The top 6 are all talking about trying to sign him up. So it's just how much money are we going to be able to get for him? What are we going to be doing with that money? And then seeing him in a Seagull shirt, and it's just special to see him succeed so far in his Brighton career. And hopefully it's not going to be too many sore feelings about him leaving. He's on to bigger and better things. Ben White, I think, is another one that could be going. There was speculation last summer that he may not even be leaving Leeds when he was on loan there. He's another one that's always talked about where he could be going to another club, top six or somewhere in Europe for big money, but he's probably less likely than Yves Bissouma. But if he goes, then it wouldn't be a huge surprise. And then other than him, I think that Matty Ryan, we're probably not going to see him in goal for the Seagulls anymore. He's on loan at Arsenal now. Robert Sanchez has come in and become our number one, so I don't really see any space for Matty Ryan to come back in.
On to Sunday. Nice early start for us, especially on the West Coast.
Yeah, 4 a.m. Not looking forward to that.
Yeah, we hear you even with the 6 o'clock one here, especially after our last shambles with 6 a.m. kickoff. So we don't like them at all. But how do you anticipate the team lines up in formation and personnel wise?
Yeah, I don't anticipate it's going to be much different from how we lined up against Leeds, the classic 3-5-2 that Graham Potter likes to use for Brighton. But he always likes to make us look foolish in the lineup prediction game, so I don't want to say that it's definitely going to be 3-5-2, 2 wing backs. It could be 4-4-2. For the personnel wise, Sanchez obviously is going to be in goal. Dunk, Webster, and White probably the back three. Jakob Motor was on the bench last week, so he might come in as a wing back, but it's probably going to be Byrne and Veltman on the wings. Lallana I think he had a little bit of an injury, but he could be coming back into the midfield with Pascal Gross and Yves Bissouma, obviously, at the back, holding up that midfield. And then Leandro Trossard kind of building up the attacking options with Neil Maupay and Danny Welbeck, who had one heck of a goal on Saturday. So hopefully we can see him get some more goals on the weekend.
Thanks, Paul. Really appreciate you jumping on and helping us out with the show. It's always great to hear from behind enemy lines, so I really appreciate it.
For sure. Yeah, hopefully we can pick up 3 points.
If it's anything exciting like the previous one, I'll need something A, to keep me awake at that time in the morning, and B, just a distraction from what usually happens when it's our teams playing at Molineux. So
exactly,
if it's like the reverse fixture early on in the year, hopefully it should be pretty entertaining.
Yeah, I can't promise another goal fest, but you never know.
Yeah. Yep, there's a reason they put this game on at 6 a.m.
Yeah, exactly.
Mike, it's better for you. You only have to be up at 7 o'clock in the morning. Paul and I have to be up at 6 for this. What do we think of these early games, man?
I honestly, it doesn't really bother me as much because I have a 16-month-old son, so he gets up every day around 6 o'clock. I'll be up anyway, so it'll be exciting, and then I'll probably make him watch it, because he's as much as possible as he runs around between playing with his toys and that. But yeah, so it doesn't bother me that much because I'm up, so I'm down.
I'm struggling to think of a good performance and a positive result from when we've had one at that time, because obviously Burnley, we don't want to talk about that. That was a 6 a.m. start for us. The first Albion game was as well. I don't think we play well at that particular time in the day for whatever reason, based on that.
Brighton is lower than us, ranked. They're 14th. We're sitting 12th. Okay.
Paul and I were watching the game with our friend Clive Hill today, and he actually brought up something that I hadn't thought of. And it could explain a little bit of the bad performance on the last early morning for us, because that's mid-afternoon for them, is Ramadan is going on. And so a couple of the guys, if they're celebrating that, they're not eating during the day. I thought that, when he said that, the more I was thinking about it, I was like, that makes legitimate sense. Like, if that could possibly cause some struggles for the players. Do you think I'm right with that, Paul?
I don't know. It'd be interesting to hear more behind the scenes about what goes on and the conditioning, the performances, and everything. But I believe it's from dawn till dusk, so
Dawn till dusk.
those earlier games should be more beneficial if they're awake early and they're fed and everything, rather than have to wait the whole day and play at 6. I'm not sure what time the sun sets in England at the moment, but it'll be getting on for 7:30 at night. So that's a long time to wait for when it's one of those evening kickoffs. So you'd think it would be that the earlier the better for the likes of Saiss and Traore, and I think out Nuri as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's just an interesting thing, and that's one of those questions almost wish some of the journalists out there would dig in a little deeper on, instead of just going for clickbait sometimes. I'd like to see a good story about that and how it affect really all of football players, not even just our guys. Are we expecting a similar game to the last early morning wake up? Surely they can't play worse.
They can't. Yeah, Brighton isn't known for their super offensive weapons, but for whatever reason, those teams, like those mid and lower teams, we just always struggle with for the past 3 years. It always comes down to those teams that just wiggle their way away from us, whether they use similar tactics or packing the box. We're not creative in that final third. We've seen that time again. I'm curious to see how they play and see if the newly injected youth adds more creativity and more exuberance for scoring goals. It seemed that way today, at least.
Yeah, the positives, if they're able to continue those from today, were the formation, in that it was 4 at the back, so that gives them more flexibility to choose from going forwards. And if we're coming up against 5, if they're going to play, or 3 centre backs, 5 at the back, maybe that plays into our favour somewhat. I think the one positive for me, if it can be exploited, is that Traore absolutely had Dan Burn on toast in the reverse fixture. So if he's playing as a wing back or as part of a back 4 again, static back 4, that should be the main aim, is just to give the ball to Traore and get at him, because there's potential there for sure. I think he'd still be dreaming about Traore after the last game. So that's hopefully some positives there that can be built on.
Do you think Fabio for the rest of the season starting, assuming he's healthy?
Yes, I would say so. Although I think it's an interesting stat that whenever Fabio scores, we have yet to actually win a match. I think that's right. That makes me a little hesitant. Actually, I was thinking that when Fabio scored today, I was like, oh, that means we're not gonna win. It means we're gonna tie or lose. And
Mike, you've got this Wolves negativity down.
I know, man.
Just a few short years, you're thinking, we scored, but
yeah. It's just been COVID mixed with our results and their injuries have just put a real bummer. I was definitely way more hopeful at the beginning. Probably our first podcast, I was super hyped and more hopeful, and now it's just be happy when the season's over.
David Luiz can go fuck himself, as far as
yeah. Yes, he does.
You can beep that out, Paul.
I don't know how to do that yet, so I'll just put E for explicit on the show notes.
Do you think Raul, though, makes a cameo sometime in the next 4 games?
Wow, that would be amazing. I heard the interesting hypothesis about him not coming back, which would be because Mexico is playing in the Nations League, Olympics. Olympics, and it might behoove him and the Wolves that he doesn't play at the end of the season, so he has an argument for not necessarily playing in the Olympics and resting there over the summer.
I definitely think that's playing into it here.
I always, like, whenever I talk to my friends about Raul, I'm just like, man, if he comes back this year, that would be crazy. He cracked his skull and it basically dented his skull, and they had to go in and pop it out. And now he's going to come back? Like, I don't know. I was trying to remember being like what is he, like 29? Like 10 years ago, if I would be of that mindset to come back. Obviously, I've never been a professional athlete in my life, but I don't know. I don't know.
You got to think as well that selfishly, in terms of the Wolves, he was playing week in, week out, never got dropped. He'd go to on international duty, fly all those miles, come back, play. So this extended break hopefully extends his shelf life somewhat. So from a purely selfish point of view, I'm very much down with holding him back and again just giving him complete rest over the summer, really recharge the batteries and come back from that point. I think that makes total sense. But it's only a finite career. He is 30 now, and you don't get many chances to win a gold medal. So I'm not sure what the odds are on Mexico are to win it, but I wouldn't be surprised if they're there or thereabouts. So yeah, I could see both sides really.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Plus, he'd be able to knock off some of the rust playing for Mexico. So it is. I can see an argument for both sides. I think Raul definitely has a special relationship with his country, and I think that's a big reason he wants to play. And I get it. I totally understand. But yeah, Wolves are in control of that, so we'll have to see. What do you think the atmosphere would be like if the last game against Man U with fans in the crowd, if he came out?
That's what that's how the stars are aligning. I think even if it's just for a fleeting substitute appearance for 30 minutes, that everything would align to at least bring that positivity to close the season out that way. I think that would be a nice touch.
How beautiful would that be too, with all the backdrop of the Super League, and now you had all the protests this past weekend, and then that would be pretty amazing if he came back and scored a goal. That would be something special.
What would have to happen for Wolves fans to protest the owners?
That's a good question. If you look back into our deepest, darkest history, it would probably be giving up your main stand to your fiercest local rivals, which happened when we had to give up the South Bank to the Albion when we played them in the FA Cup. So that didn't go down very well. So I don't know. When we compare it to that Manchester United example, then that really goes in on the financial elements, like the amount of debt that was needed to buy him in the first place, and it's turned a very profitable football club that was a full money making unit into one that's on very shaky ground financially, and I think that's got a heck of a lot to do with it. But it's not in the old not too distant future that the Wolves were clinging on to our lives from going out of business, and that was protests, that was dwindling crowds just in the 2, 3, 4,000s at the very most, really close to becoming extinct. It would have to take something as severe as that, I think. I don't think we've got that type of ownership, but it's always good to be wary that this stuff does happen, I'm afraid.
So I know I took us on a little sidetrack there. Let's hear predictions for the game. I'll start with you, Mike.
Oh, Brighton. Last time we scored 3 goals. Jeez, and they scored 3 goals. Maybe this time's going to be a little bit different. I would say I'll go for a wary Wolves win. 2-1 Wolves. Adasawi scores in the 90th minute off a header from a Torre.
From how far out? 1 yard out or 2?
To maybe 2 or 3 yards. Just
next beer's on me if that happens, Mike.
Nah, you're on. I'll take it.
Paul?
Oh, could be pessimistic again, but I might just throw that out the window. I'm not looking forward to it, and I'm just hoping there's been enough positives from tonight that carry over. I'll go 2-2. I think it'll be a draw, but hopefully there's at least some goals.
I'll go 1-1 draw.
Mm-hmm.
As I said, I don't pick them to score more than 1 goal.
Yeah.
It's been doing me pretty well for most of the year now.
I think that's fair. That's fair at this point, yeah.
And I think Silva's the one that gets it. I think he's going to really start getting on a roll here.
Yeah, and then it's got to be either a draw or a loss in my mind.
How are the standings looking, Paul?
I haven't updated it from this current match from tonight, but I'll go in there and have a quick look right now. You are on, what did you say for the Albion game? You went a win.
I said 1-0 win.
Wolves.
Yeah.
Yes, you'll stay on 21. I go from 16 to 17, predicting the draw, and then add it. But the guests are lagging behind somewhat around the 11-point mark. So you've still got a little leeway there, Josh. Still.
All right. Okay, Paul. It's time for no stupid questions, and you said we have some good ones today.
Yeah, related to the game, I think, and it's that part of the show, folks, where you get in touch across our socials, email, or the form on our website to ask us anything you want when it comes to the Wolves, be it historical or match day experience, really anything that comes to mind. But the first one was from Alex Wilson on Twitter, and he asked, thinking aloud, Nuno, the coaching staff, telling players to not be aggressive in the box and look for passes over shots, or do Neves, Traore and the like just need that bit more confidence?
That's a great question.
Sometimes I feel like especially tonight, they seemed like they were trying to do the perfect goal, where Fabio told you the opposite, where sometimes it's not the perfect ones that goes in. And I think sometimes we do need to be a bit more direct, I think, when it comes to that final third and getting in the box. And I think the likes of Traore, it's a valid criticism sometimes that he should contribute more goals. And I think the opportunity for him, it's if he's coming in from the left to take the shot on his right foot when he gets into those positions, rather than stop and trying to keep the move going and via a pass, something like that. I think there's more opportunity there. As far as Neves goes, I think it's not necessarily directly in the box, but really that 18-yard point, 20 yards out. I think he probably had 3 today, that one nearly went out of play, and the keeper just controlled it with his feet, and the other 2 forced basic saves. We're really missing that Neves of old that was a genuine threat from just on the box or just outside. So I think there's some, not necessarily an issue. Maybe it's a confidence thing. I think it could be what Alex says, that it is down to confidence. We mentioned previously that Fabio wasn't scared to try his luck from distance as well. So that breeds confidence. He may try that again on Sunday and it flies in. So who knows as far as that goes. Even to the extent out Nuri, that one in the first half where he got a bit of luck, but he beat 2 or 3 men and he was in there and he couldn't get tackled because it would have been a penalty. I think that's the confidence element, where if you get in that spot, and the same goes for Semedo, that he pops up a few times in the box, and like today, he really should have scored his chance. He's just putting those away, and confidence, score one and the floodgates could open, and they really kick on from there.
I actually think it's that the team is too unselfish at times. I think they're always, like you said, they're looking for the perfect goal, so they're looking for the pass where it's just going to be almost a tap in, not really much of a challenge. And that's probably one of the biggest things we see with Raul out is, and now Neto too, is there isn't somebody who's just going to get the ball and fire. I do think that they are trying to just create the best opportunities, and by doing so, they're missing opportunities that could lead to goals.
Yeah, I know that last year's stats, like Raul shots, he was like 2nd or 3rd in the league, and with someone having such a high percentage of just shots going down, obviously they don't have that mentality to take as many shots as, I guess maybe Nuno was telling them to pass Raul the ball last year or at the beginning of the season. because he is the goal scorer, and they're not as accustomed.
Yeah.
I will say I sometimes do get really frustrated when the Dama he like stops and like plays with the guy a little bit, and I know he's waiting for other players to catch up, but at the same time, I just love to see him just like blast one like from a one touch and just right at the goal, because he when he shoots, it's so powerful. Like when it's on target, it just doesn't seem. Yeah, we saw that with that goal against Fulham. It's a perfect example.
Got another no stupid question. Soccer in the South on Twitter, which is Wolfman Jeff, who we all know and love. And Jeff asked, has Vitana guaranteed his signing? And again, I think that's pretty much from tonight. And
yeah, after today, 100%.
For me, it's a definitive. I've thought all along that we wouldn't have wasted those types of signings last summer if it wasn't going to be a permanent. And I've always thought that Vitana is Moutinho's heir apparent. He's a central midfielder. He's not a 10. And I think there are a ton of positives tonight that confirm that. And he'll be an asset in the future in that particular role.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah.
No doubt. I did at the beginning of the year think it was not a sure thing, but after seeing what I did tonight, and I imagine that's going to be his role now the rest of the year, for sure, guaranteed.
Do you guys think the price tag is right? He's going to be 20 million if they sign him, right?
Yeah, I think 20, 22. Like Fabio, you're paying for a lot of potential.
Yeah.
So
is that just the going rate for a good?
Yeah, I think
midfielder
so.
now. Yeah.
Yeah, I think especially with his age, the profile of player, the background that he's come from, obviously coming through the ranks at Porto and that whole learning that he's got to his game. He was certainly one of the standouts when the Portugal under-21 team played the English under-21s a month or two ago. So valuation probably was justified in that game a little as well. To that point, what Josh mentioned, you pay somewhat of a premium, but it may not be for this immediate season or two, but 2 or 3 down the line, it could turn into some really good value for money.
Yeah.
I think Aït-Nouri is also guaranteed his signing over the last few games, especially with Johnny hurt. I think he's improved, so I think he's another one that's for sure. Sign him up. Get rid of Captain Stepover for good.
He's going to be. You're talking about Vinagre, right? Yeah, I think he's going to be signed by somebody, Portugal or something.
He's done quite well by all accounts, and there's some movers and shakers. That there's potential swap deals, which I think we will see more of, given the climate and the financials that are going on. That it could be players move as part of a joint deal and cash involved, either coming or going. So I think he may well move for those types of reasons, I think.
Yeah. Can I ask a question? I wanted to know your guys' opinion on Kilman. We saw him today, and
he needs to be starting.
I just don't know why he hasn't been starting over Sykes.
I don't know. I think he ran over Nuno's dog or something. It's the only thing. Does Nuno have a daughter that Kilman that he caught Kilman with?
Yeah, I thought he was great. I just don't understand.
But even to tonight as well, that again is a young kid, relatively inexperienced, to come on in those conditions and play in an unfamiliar role at left back, and he took to it straight away. He was faultless in that brief cameo and did some good defending at a time that was really needed. So if he's a centre back, we really need to see more of him to close out the season to see if he's worth persevering with, because even if he's not starting each week, we really got to think about building a squad. And we've really got to think that is he capable of challenging for a starting position, because that's what the bench need to be if we're going to kick on and improve. Nuno's got to look over his shoulder when it comes to making a change or an enforced change and thinking, I have to bring my left centre back off. I'm playing in a 4. He's got hurt. Who am I going to rely on? So if it is Kilman, then we've got to see it. If not, he can be sold, but you're running a dangerous game to get someone in for his value, which you effectively signed for peanuts, and he could be moving now for 5 million, probably 10, with the experience he's got, especially because you can claim him as an English player with all the work permit stuff and the EU fallout. So I think we've got to see him and see what it's like going forwards, because I like him. I think he's a great player, but it's kind of, I don't pick the team. I don't see him in training each week.
Yeah.
I don't see if he ran over any cats or daughters. So
my only thought was that they were just letting Saiz play so they can sell him at the end of the season, make profit off him. But I don't know. I don't know. I just couldn't. I still don't fully understand why you're starting halfback in a center back's position. I know there was a time where we had to because we didn't have the players, but now it seems Kilman was doing so well when he was playing, and he had one bad match, and then we haven't seen him for, it seems like, forever.
Yeah, it makes you wonder. I would like to see it myself, that if he is in a 4 with Cody, it could be a car crash, but it could be immense. That if he knows he's got the responsibility, that Cody's there as the organizer to help him with positioning, puts a lot of burden on him and his defensive game, that there's some question marks. But if you just give that remit to Kilman and saying, hey Max, you're the main guy, you're 6'5", you've got to go and win these high balls, you're the one who's going to be attacking these balls coming in, just give him that remit and see how he does.
Yeah I always get really excited about him and Bolly just dominating the air. That's why I always like to.
Yeah, it should be. But I think whichever way you look at it, and it's going to be interesting, favoured formation wise, and what we evolve into. We need at least one centre back, maybe even 2 this close season. So I think it's going to be a defining moment if that happens and who comes in. I think either way, if it doesn't, we're gonna struggle.
So as we enter added time, Mike, why don't you give a shout out to Virginia Wolves and tell the listeners how they can get a hold of you in the group.
You can check out our Twitter account, Virginia Wolves. You can also check us on the Worldwide Wolves. We're there. Email me and we can chat. Hopefully, whenever COVID goes away, we'll actually have face-to-face meetings to watch a match together. I don't know what we used to do the age before COVID, which will be quite astounding.
Listeners, thanks for your continued support. If you are tuning in for the first time, please hit that subscribe button, like the podcast, share it, give us a 5-star review on your podcast listening platform of choice, because that helps us a tremendous amount with our exposure. We'll be back again next week to talk everything about that early morning start against Brighton. So be sure to get back listening to that one. In the meantime, stay safe out there. Look after you and your pack, and you know we trust. Fuck off West Brom and up the Wolves.